I figured, Greg, since there's so much to cover, we begin because it's the sexiest position on the field. It's the position that everybody talks about. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappe. Some thought that this was going to be a quarterback competition. Not only was it not a competition, but as of right now, and I stress right now, because there's a lot that's going to be done, as you and I know, over the next, couple of days, couple of weeks. But as of right now, Bailey Zappe is not on this roster. He was cut earlier today. Just your thoughts from 30,000 feet, and maybe even a little bit in the weeds about what this plan might be at quarterback.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I'm sure a lot of this, I'm giving Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt before I hammer him on other things.
Right.
This obviously wasn't the plan for a long time, whether it's quarterback or any other position, that they had to basically, I think at one point they had, what do they have now? So they had 12 offensive linemen at one point.
They have 11 on the roster.
They have 11 now that Connor McDermott's been moved to IR with the official moves. That's still extremely heavy. It looks like probably Riley Reif will move to IR. So that's 10. That's in the general vicinity. I had 9 on my final one. Of course, I largely ignored the injury stuff because I just don't know. I didn't know how serious anything was for anybody. So McDermott's season is over. Riley Reif, you would expect that he's going to move to in-season IR tomorrow. So I'm sure a lot of this was not the plan. Let's just start with the quarterback position. Am I surprised that Bailey Zappe was released? Yes. I guess I would say yes. Now, did I have growing concerns about his future here, his fit in this offense after what I saw, the totality of the summer practices, the 3 preseason games, especially the last couple? Yeah, I was starting to say, okay, he had gone from last year, he earned solid backup role for me, spot starter. I feel good with Bailey Zappe. Smart guy, tough guy, throw him in against the Packers, almost led them to a victory, led them to 2 victories against, crappy defenses, but, did a good job. He put the steering wheel on, 8 and 10 or whatever the saying is.
10 and 2.
10 and 2. I forgot my twins are in driving school. I should have them down here telling me. They're probably yelling at me right now.
You'd be like this.
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, that's how they drive anyways. But anyways, so, I thought he did a good job, but, we talked last year a lot about, people were going nuts about Bailey Zappe, and we talked about, all right, fine, he's doing his job, but, this isn't really the toughest thing that he's had to do. A lot of these are defined reads. Almost all of his big plays were play action, like shot plays where guys were, almost open, or he's wide open, or he's throwing 50-50 balls. And look, I think in hindsight, and then you looked at him this summer in Bill O'Brien's offense, which is back to the traditional Patriots offense where it's a lot on the quarterback. You got to get the protection right. You got to change routes. You got to read routes right in the moment. Like it's just different than what Matt Patricia was running. And that fits Mac Jones. I didn't think that it would be an ill-advised fit for Bailey Zappe, but that's the way it looked over the course of the summer, to the point you got through the last preseason game and you're just like, I don't know, can this guy do it? And I think the Patriots had those discussions amongst themselves. Now, do I think that they want Bailey Zappe back on the practice squad? Yes, absolutely. With all of this, with what we're going to talk about, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, including one who hasn't even played for them yet, in Ezekiel Elliott, and 2 tight ends, that's not the way you draw it up at all.
No,
ever.
No. Nope.
No, you build depth, you build youth, you bring people along. They're in your system from when they're drafted or brought in March and April and May, and they're here for months. They're learning it. They practice during the summer. And then if they're called upon, they're trained in your system. Now the Patriots are put in a position where they're going to have to basically, look, this is being brutally honest. I'm sorry if this offends some people, which apparently does on Twitter, which isn't a surprise. But basically, the Patriots are trolling other people's trash now at quarterback, running back, and tight end. That is not optimal. You can slice it any way you want. it's not optimal. But yeah, I'm surprised. I thought Bailey had done enough, but do I think there's some interplay there between him and Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien and what went on last year? And I think there's a little bit of that. I think most of it was just like, do we think this guy fits what we do now and what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future in terms of what we ask the quarterbacks to do? And I think at the end of the day, their answer was no, but I don't think it's quite the end of Bailey Zappe. He could be back on the practice squad. If I were him, I'd be running to a Kyle Shanahan system, one of his disciples somewhere in the league, because if Brock Purdy can do what he did, Bailey Zappe can come close. So we'll have to see what happens at quarterback.
New FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube at YouTube TV.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand people kind of freaking out a little bit because it's strange to look at a 53-man roster and you have one quarterback on the roster right now. I don't think Belichick's plan is to walk in with one quarterback when they get ready to play the Eagles. I don't think that's going to happen. I also would say Bailey Zappe, and I know some people were in love with Bailey Zappe. As you mentioned, Greg, we had the whole Zappe fever conversation last year. You nor I were on the Zappe bandwagon. Both of us had talked about the level of competition he played against, the play calling, how it changed from Zappe to Jones and then back to Jones and then to Zappe. It was clearly a different offense when Zappe was quarterbacking than Jones last year. And that was clear for everybody to see. So I never had Zappe fever, never hit me, never really understood it. I still think the chanting for Zappe in that Chicago game was an absolute embarrassment by those people that did that night at Gillette Stadium. Let's all be honest, though. Like, if Bailey Zappe is part of this football team, is he really the difference between this team winning 8 games, 9 games, 10 games? Like, if Mac Jones goes down, is Zappe the guy that you say, all right, he's going to be able to really lead this offense and be that kind of a backup quarterback? Not to me, not right now. Maybe last year, if you kept the same kind of offense and you handled him with kid gloves again. But as you mentioned, Greg, the way this thing is being run with Bill O'Brien, Bailey Zappe was not going to be that big of a help. He was going to be a body in the quarterback room. So what's the difference? I hear some people bitching about, Colt McCoy or Brian Hoyer or this guy or that. Honestly, everybody take a deep breath and tell me what the difference is between a Bailey Zappe and a Colt McCoy. Well, it's not a huge difference. McCoy's better, I would say. And if you feel like McCoy, who has had some kind of experience with this offense with Brian Daboll, he at least has some kind of an idea of what needs to be done. It's just, we're talking about the backup quarterback. And I remember when I was 10, 11 years old, I remember the Michael Bishop conversations. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Malik Cunningham played good for 6 minutes in a preseason game and people started to lose their collective minds. It's always been this way. It will always be this way. One of the most popular guys on the team is the backup quarterback when the starting quarterback is not universally loved. And that's what happens. But Bailey Zappe being on this team or off this team is not the difference between this team winning or losing. It's just not. It's just not. So whether he gets through and he's on the practice squad or they pick up Colt McCoy or somebody else, it's going to be relatively the same kind of guy you're talking about. This is Mac's team. This is Mac's team. And this team will go as far offensively as the offensive line, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, and Mac will help lead it. That's as far as it's going to go, is as far as he and the offensive line are going to take it. And if they can stay healthy at wide receiver, it's as simple as that. And people just, this whole Bailey Zappe narrative from the very beginning has been just an absolute joke to me. Let's look at the offense really on the whole. You mentioned this, Greg. And I feel like we need to underline and highlight this point as we talk through this podcast. Mm-hmm. Over and over, you'll hear this a lot. We understand. It's August 29th. There's a lot of time. There are going to be some other moves made. But right now, what I would say is Bill Belichick's roster offensively, it's pretty ballsy. Right now, you have 2 running backs. Right now, you have 2 tight ends. And right now, you have 1 quarterback on your 53-man roster. So you almost have to hope that certain things kind of fall in line. Now, maybe Riley Reef, as you mentioned, he goes on the IR and they bring back Ty Montgomery, and this is a handshake deal with Ty, and we're not even worried about this. But it does open the door for other teams to kind of sneak in and say, hey, do you want to come join us? It does open the door for a team to pick up Bailey Zappe if they're interested. And now you're trying to scramble and find that second guy if Colt McCoy is not an option, Brian Hoyer. Pretty ballsy to have 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and a quarterback on your 53-man roster to start things off.
Yeah. Ballsy, crazy.